The hall glittered like a jewel box. Strings of banners stretched across the rafters, each one shimmering with bold letters. Congratulations, class of 2025. The polished stage gleamed under spotlights. Microphones lined neatly. A podium, waiting at the center. Rows upon rows of graduates in their caps and gowns shifted nervously, tassels swinging with every fidget and whispered laugh. All around me, the sound of joy pulsed. Families filled the audience seats, leaning forward with bouquets in hand, phones raised, waving to their children on the floor below. The air vibrated with applause every few minutes as names were called, each cheer louder than the last, echoing. Through the cavernous space, I gripped the edge of my gown, my eyes scanning the crowd. My gaze slid past the proud mothers clapping, past fathers whistling so loud that the crowd laughed, past siblings balancing balloons and cameras. My classmates waved toward the stands, their faces glowing with pride as their names rang out. And then my eyes found it. The row where my parents were supposed to be, empty. 3 unclaimed seats. Stark and silent among a sea of flowers and families. A pit opened in my stomach. I stared at the emptiness until my throat tightened. I had told myself maybe they'd come. Even after the cold words just days ago, some foolish part of me had still hoped. The memory burned fresh, too. Nights before the ceremony, I had stood in the kitchen holding my invitation, my voice trembling but steady enough to speak. Graduation starts at 6, I said. They'll be announcing awards. It would mean a lot if you came. My father didn't even look up from the newspaper. You don't waste time on your little events, he muttered. My mother, rinsing dishes, scoffed. We already raised you. We don't need to sit through boring speeches and clapping. Don't expect us there. And my younger brother, the golden child, the one they never missed a game for, had laughed under his breath. Yeah, who'd want to sit through that? The words had stung like acid, but I had nodded, pretending it didn't matter, pretending I didn't care, but I did. God, I did. And now, sitting among my classmates, staring at those empty chairs, their absence cut sharper than any insult ever had. Applause burst again as another name was called. Anthony Williams. The crowd erupted, his family's cheers echoing like thunder. Anthony grinned, waving at the stands as he crossed the stage. I clapped for him with the others, but my hands felt heavy, my palms burning. Because when Emily Carter was called, no one would cheer. No bouquets would wave in the air. No camera flashes from family eager to capture the moment. There would be silence, and everyone would see it. The announcer's voice boomed, reading another name, another triumph. Each one felt like salt in a wound I couldn't close. I shifted in my seat, trying to keep my back straight, my face neutral. If anyone looked at me, I wanted them to see calm, not the storm tearing me apart inside. But it was hard when whispers crept to my ears. Where are her parents? Someone murmured behind me. Didn't they show up? Another whispered. I pressed my lips together, eyes fixed on the stage, praying the floor would swallow me whole. Beside me, a classmate nudged me, grinning as she spotted her family waving wildly from the stands. There they are. My mom's crying already, she laughed. Can you believe this day's finally here? I forced a smile, nodding though my chest ached. Her parents were here. Everyone's were, except mine. The chancellor stepped up to the podium, his deep voice filling the room. Graduation is not just an ending, but a beginning. Today, we honor your perseverance, your courage, and the sacrifices you've made to reach this moment. I almost laughed bitterly. Sacrifices? Mine had been countless. Late nights working shifts, too. Pay bills, mornings fueled only by coffee and determination. Weekends lost to study marathons. I had clawed my way here alone, and my parents couldn't even bother to sit in those seats. Another name was called, another cheer. I swallowed hard, my vision blurring as tears threatened to surface. Not here, I told myself. Don't let them win by breaking down in front of everyone. But still, the questions swirled in my head like poison. Oh, wait, why wasn't I worth their time? Why could they scream themselves hoarse at my brother's games, but not clap once for me? Why was I always the afterthought, the burden, the one they could abandon without guilt? I dug my nails into my palms until it hurt. No, not today. If they wouldn't see me, then I'd make sure the world did. The announcer's voice rose again, louder than before. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the next segment of our ceremony will be one of special recognition. The room hushed, anticipation hanging thick in the air. The announcer smiled, shuffling his note cards. This year, for the first time, a portion of our awards ceremony will be broadcast live on television, showcasing the incredible achievements of our graduates to families across the state. Gasps, murmurs, excitement. Parents leaned forward. Cameras ready, graduates straightened, hearts pounding, and me. My breath caught in my throat, live. On TV, if my parents wouldn't see me here, they'd see me there, the announcer continued, his voice booming like a drum roll. And the very first student to be honored in this televised segment is... The lights shifted, brighter now, cameras turning, red recording lights flicking. On my chest tightened, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The announcer looked down at the card, then up at the crowd, smiling. Emily Carter, they say, the people who love you should be your loudest cheerleaders. But for me, home was always the place of silence, or worse, of words that cut sharper than knives, childhood, seeds of neglect growing up. My family's favoritism wasn't subtle, was painted in bold colors, loud and undeniable. My brother, the golden child, had parents who never missed a single soccer game. They shouted themselves hoarse from the bleachers, bought him brand new cleats every season, and threw parties after every win. Me, I was the kid who loved books, debates, and science fairs. I brought home ribbons, certificates, little trophies, each one earned after hours of dedication. But at the dinner table, my announcements were met with shrugs. That's nice, my mom would say, not even looking up from her phone. You should try something useful, my dad added. Nobody cares about those little nerd competitions. Then they would turn back to my brother, planning his next game, his next party, his next celebration. Even birthdays felt uneven. His were extravagant balloons, cakes, guests filling the house. Mine sometimes just a store-bought cake, with candles that melted before anyone remembered to light them. I learned quickly, if I wanted applause, I'd have to clap for myself. The first cracks in middle school, the neglect grew sharper. I tried out for the debate team and won first place in a regional tournament. The school even announced it over the loudspeaker. My friends congratulated me. Teachers patted my back. That evening, I came home flushed with pride, medal around my neck. My father glanced at it once and said, "Does that medal put food on the table?" The medal suddenly weighed like lead. Later that night, I overheard him telling my mom, "She wastes time on things that don't matter. She'd never be successful." The word waste carved itself into my bones. But instead of breaking me, it hardened me. I decided then I'd prove them wrong. High school alone, but unstoppable by high school. I stopped asking them to come to events. The sting of empty seats was too much to bear. While my brother played under Friday night lights, cheered by a crowd, I stood alone at award ceremonies. Teachers shook my hand, snapping photos with disposable cameras. Behind me, rows of empty chairs marked where my family should have been. When friends asked, "Where are your parents?" I forced a laugh. "Oh, they're busy. You know how it is." But inside, it tore me apart. Still, I pushed harder. I loaded my schedule with AP classes. I worked part-time at a diner after school, wiping grease from tables until midnight. I saved every dollar, knowing I couldn't depend on my parents for college money. I lived in a cycle of exhaustion. School, work, homework, repeat. Some nights, I cried quietly into my pillow, praying someone, anyone, would say they were. Proud of me, no one did. The scholarship letter senior year, I got the letter that changed everything. Congratulations. You have been awarded a full scholarship to university name. I read it 3 times before the words sank in. I had done it. I had carved my own path without a cent from them. I ran into the kitchen, letter clutched in my hand, hope fluttering like wings in my chest. Look, I said, beaming. I got a full ride. I won't need loans. I'm going to college. My father didn't look up from his TV, so that doesn't impress me. My mother frowned. Don't think this makes you special. Scholarships don't last forever. You'll be back here, begging. My brother, he just smirked. Guess they give scholarships to anyone now. The hope in my chest withered, shriveled, and died. That night, I folded the letter and tucked it into my notebook. It wasn't just a piece of paper. It was proof that, whether they clapped or not, I was going to rise. College, fighting alone college, was brutal. While others got care packages from home, I scraped by with instant noodles and black coffee. While classmates had parents covering rent, I worked double shifts at the library and diner. But for every night I thought I'd collapse, there was a morning I rose stronger. Professors noticed. They saw me hunched over notes, saw me asking the hard questions, saw me refusing to give up. You've got resilience, one professor told me. Not everyone has that. Don't lose it. Those words became my lifeline. Every insult from home, waste, leech, nothing special, I converted into fuel. By junior year, I wasn't just surviving. I was excelling. Grades soared. Opportunities opened. And finally, senior year, I got the news. I had been chosen for a special recognition award. The kind usually reserved for students with extraordinary perseverance. Even better. This year, the award would be televised. The invitation that broke me, I wanted, foolishly, to share the moment. So I invited them. Graduation's next week, I said cautiously at dinner. They're giving me a special award. It's kind of a big deal. It's even going to be on TV. My father snorted. TV? You think anyone cares? My mother waved her hand. We're not wasting our evenings sitting in a hall for hours just to watch you prance across a stage. And my brother added the final cut. Don't be dramatic. It's not like you're winning $1 million. Words burned. I turned away quickly so they wouldn't see the tears. That night, I promised myself, if they wouldn't be there, I'd make sure the whole world knew they weren't. The build-up to graduation. The days leading up to graduation blurred together. My classmates gushed about their families traveling, and about dinner reservations, about surprise parties. I nodded, smiled, congratulated them, and inside I braced myself. Because I knew what was coming. The empty seats, the whispers, the humiliation. But I also knew something else. This time it wouldn't just be a hall of strangers noticing their absence. It would be cameras, broadcasts, the truth captured live. The graduation hall pulsed with energy, caps gleamed, tassels swung, and each name called sent another roar of applause through the crowd. Every cheer felt like a drum beat rattling in my chest. But for me, those cheers weren't for joy. They were reminders. Each clap echoed against the empty chairs where my parents should have been. Row after row of families stood tall, waving. Flowers, snapping photos, screaming names so loud that the whole auditorium shook. And me, I sat in silence. The whispers at first, I tried to ignore it. Tried to keep my gaze fixed on the stage, hands folded neatly in my lap. But whispers have a way of finding you even through the loudest noise. Where are her parents? Someone murmured behind me, didn't they show up? Another voice asked softly. Poor thing, a woman whispered, just loud enough for me to catch. Each word was a dagger. I shifted in my seat, trying to sit taller, but the shame pressed, heavy on my shoulders. The auditorium felt like it was closing in, the empty chairs glowing like spotlights. I could almost hear my father's voice echoing in my head. We don't waste time on your little events. And now, that choice wasn't private. Everyone could see it. The comparison beside me, my classmate Lisa grinned, waving furiously at her family. Her parents shouted her name, tears streaming down their faces, as she prepared to walk the stage. "Can you believe this?" she whispered to me, eyes shining. "They're so proud." I forced a smile, nodding. "They should be." Inside, I felt the ache burn deeper. Why not me? Why couldn't my parents look at me that way? The answer hit like a stone because they never would. The almost collapsed as more names rolled on, the pressure built. My chest tightened, my throat raw. I wanted to run, to vanish before Emily Carter came, before everyone noticed the silence where applause should have been. Because that's what would happen. They'd call Emily Carter. There'd be nothing. No clapping, no cheering, just silence. And everyone would know. I dug my nails into my palm, trying to steady myself. But humiliation is a storm. It doesn't just sting, it drowns you. It's the unexpected announcement then. The announcer's voice boomed louder than before. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to announce that for the first time, tonight's ceremony will feature a special BROADCAST segment. Several students will be recognized live on television for their extraordinary achievements." The room hushed. Murmurs rippled like a wave. Parents straightened in their chairs. Graduates exchanged excited looks. Live on TV. My heart skipped. The announcer shuffled his cards, smiling toward the cameras now stationed at the sides of the stage. Red recording lights flickered on, glowing like watchful eyes. And the first student to be recognized in this broadcast segment is... My breath caught. Emily Carter. The spotlight gasps. Applause erupted louder than I'd ever imagined it could be for me. Families clapped, classmates cheered. The cameras swung toward me. I froze, heat rushing to my face. Me. Of all people, me. I rose slowly, my legs trembling, my cap nearly slipping as I stepped into the aisle. The applause swelled, rolling over me like thunder. And for the first time, I wasn't imagining their absence. I was embracing it, because the cameras were capturing everything. Not just me rising, not just me walking toward the stage, but the glaring, undeniable truth: 3 empty seats in a sea of cheering families. The silent revenge as I climbed the steps to the stage. I glanced once more at the stands. My classmates' parents were on their feet, clapping wildly, some even crying. Professors nodded with pride. And there, in the middle of it all, was the stark emptiness. No father, no mother, no brother. Just silence. And the cameras saw it. Not just the people in this hall, but thousands watching live who would wonder, where is her family? Why didn't they show up? The humiliation they wanted for me had flipped. It wasn't my shame anymore. It was theirs. I straightened my back, lifted my... The stage lights blazed down, hot and blinding, but I didn't flinch. I stepped forward, the applause rolling over me like a storm I no longer feared. The announcer gestured with pride, his voice carrying across the hall. This student exemplifies what it means to overcome adversity. While balancing studies with countless responsibilities, they have risen to the top with sheer determination. The camera zoomed in, red lights blinking. My image flashed onto the giant screen above the stage, and behind me, still visible. Impossible to ignore those 3 empty seats. The chancellor's words. The chancellor walked forward, a broad smile on his face. He extended his hand, and when I shook it, his grip was firm, his voice low but full of warmth. "You've earned this moment," he said, just for me to hear. Then he turned to the microphone. "Our honoree tonight has shown remarkable resilience. Without the privileges many take for granted, they fought through obstacles that would have stopped others cold. They stand here as proof that success is built not on convenience, but on courage." The crowd erupted again. I blinked back tears. My whole life I had wanted words like that from my parents. But hearing them here from a respected leader in front of hundreds and broadcast live to thousands more meant more than I ever imagined. The camera's eye as I accepted the award, a plaque engraved with Emily Carter. The cameras zoomed closer. The spotlight burned hotter. I could feel the weight of every lens trained on me. Every angle captured not just my proud smile, not just the chancellor's praise, but the undeniable truth of what was missing. The director of the broadcast surely noticed. The wide shots told the story better than I ever could. Hall filled, with families waving, crying, clapping, except for one glaring gap. A daughter on stage, a family absent. The speech, the announcer handed me the microphone. My hands trembled at first, but then steadied. I took a deep breath, my voice carrying through the hushed auditorium. I didn't think I'd be standing here tonight. For a long time, I thought maybe I didn't belong in places like this. I was told I wasn't enough, that my efforts were meaningless, that no matter how hard I worked, no one would notice. The audience leaned in, but I kept going, even when I sat alone, even when my victories felt invisible, even when there was no one in the stands cheering for me. It's because I learned something important. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You only need to believe in yourself. Applause rippled through the crowd, swelling into cheers. I swallowed the lump in my throat and continued. This award isn't just mine. It belongs to every student who worked 3 jobs to stay afloat, to every person who studied by candlelight because the power went out, to everyone who kept pushing even when nobody clapped. This moment, it's proof. You are enough. We are enough. The hall exploded into applause. Some families even stood, giving me a standing ovation. The world watching, I lowered the microphone, my hands shaking with adrenaline. The chancellor placed his arm around my shoulders as we posed for photos. Flashbulbs burst, cameras rolled, and the cheers carried on. And I knew somewhere out there, on living room TVs, in diners, in bars, maybe even at my own house, people were watching. Relatives, neighbors, coworkers, everyone who had ever believed my parents' version of me that I was a burden, a disappointment, a waste of time. Now they were seeing the truth. Not through my words, not through excuses, but through proof. Through applause so loud it drowned out every cruel thing my family had ever said. The silence of the empty seats as the ovation continued, my eyes flicked once more to the stands. Those 3 empty seats stared back at me, silent, damning. And I realized something. This was no longer my shame. It was theirs. Because when the world saw me rise, they also saw who chose not to be there. Who refused to clap. Who decided I wasn't worth their time. And no amount of excuses could erase that image. Not from the cameras, not from the people who witnessed it live. The applause that mattered when I returned to my seat, classmates leaned over to hug me, whispering congratulations. Professors gave me nods of respect, some clapping even harder than the parents in the stands. For once, I wasn't the invisible one. For once, the applause wasn't for someone else. It was mine. And though my parents weren't there to hear it, the entire world had. The ceremony spilled out into the courtyard under a sky painted in twilight purples and golds. Graduates tossed their caps, laughter ringing through the air like bells. Families swarmed the lawn with flowers, cameras flashing, tears shining on cheeks. I stood in the middle of it, award still clutched in my hands, almost dizzy from the whirlwind of congratulations. The crowd's "embrace your speech" gave me chills, a professor's wife said, clasping my hand. You're an inspiration, a younger student whispered, eyes wide. Even strangers came up, people I'd never spoken to before. I was watching from the back, one father said. I couldn't stop clapping for you. Every word wrapped around me like a warm thigh. Had never felt at home. And through it all, the camera still hovered, capturing interviews, snapping photos, immortalizing the night. This time, I wasn't the invisible child. I was the headline. The phone call later, as the crowd thinned, my phone buzzed. A name. Flashed across the screen, Dad. For a moment, I just stared. My thumb hovered. The same man who couldn't even sit in a chair for me tonight calling now, I answered. Silence hummed for a moment, then his voice, sharp and uneasy. We saw you on TV, he said. His tone wasn't pride. It was defense. You could have told us it was such a big deal. I almost laughed. I had told them. They just hadn't cared. I did, I said simply. He cleared his throat. Well, we were busy. You know how it is. But still, good job. We're proud. The words sounded like rusted metal, forced, unnatural. The confrontation, I took a deep breath, holding the phone tighter. This was the moment I had waited for. The moment my whole chest had burned for. No, I said firmly. You're not proud. You didn't come. You refused to come. And now the whole world knows it. Silence. You've always called my achievements nothing. It's always acted like I was wasting my time. Tonight proved. You wrong not just to me, but to everyone watching. And you can't take that back. I could hear his breath catch, my mother's voice faint in the background. Don't talk like that, but I cut her off. I don't need your applause. I never did. But I want you to remember this. When the world finally saw me shine, you weren't there, and you'll never erase that image. The line went quiet. I ended the call. The release the moment I hung up. A strange calm washed over me. Years of swallowed pain, of begging silently for scraps of approval, dissolved like smoke. They had refused me over and over. And tonight, their refusal wasn't hidden anymore. Was captured on film, broadcast 2000s. Their absence had become their confession. And I no longer carried the weight of proving myself to them. The chosen family, a group of classmates, waved me over, arms laden with flowers and laughter. We're going out to celebrate. You're coming with us, no excuses. I smiled a real full smile. Yeah, I said softly, I'll come. As we walked into the night, I realized something. Family isn't always the people you're born to. Sometimes it's the ones who stand and clap when you rise. The ones who see you when others refuse. Final reflection later that night. Back in my